We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara, Mesechet Shekalim. This is Shekalim Daf 18b. And the previous Amar, Rabbi Yehuda said the reason why we don't collect money in the shofaros for the kinei chova is we're afraid maybe one of the women who put in the money, maybe she passed away, and now you have a problem of some of the money is for women who are alive, and some of the money is for women who are not alive, and that's going to be a problem in terms of what you do with the money. And the Gemara here is in the middle of asking from a brisa which says the exact opposite. It says that if a woman brings money, she can put it in the shofar, v'ochelas b'kachim lo erev, some have the girsa lo erev, she can eat kachim that evening, meaning she can rely on the fact that the money was used properly to bring her carbon and she's totally pure and ready to eat kachim. V'yeina chosheshes shemenisatzel bohen, she doesn't have to worry that maybe the kohen was lazy and didn't do what needed to be done and didn't bring the carbon. And furthermore, v'yein hakohen choshesh, also the kohen does not need to be afraid, shemedmei chatos misos muravos behen, doesn't have to be afraid that maybe there are carbon chatos in here where the original owner died. So you see the exact opposite. You don't have to worry about the fact that maybe someone among the group who gave the money died. And so the Gemara answers, Ki koamrinon bechato shemesu baalei and vada. You're right. What Rabbi Yehuda meant to say was, the reason why he didn't want to collect the money in the shofars was not because we have a suspicion that maybe one of the bailim is going to die. It's because what if we find out for sure? What if we find out bevadai that one of these women died? Then we're really going to have a problem. And the Gemara continues, V'iyam rinon breira, they have the girsa, and if we do say in general breira, meaning if we say that retroactively you're allowed to say yesh breira, that all of this money originally was for this purpose, so then the Gemara says we should have a simple solution. Why? Because we should simply say, Nivra dalit zuze, let's just select 4 zuz out of the container of the shofaras, Vinishti benara, throw those 4 zuz in the river, V'idach lishtaru, and then all the rest of the money you could use. In other words, if you hold of breira, if you hold that you can look at this retroactively, so then simply say whatever money we take out retroactively is the money that was given by the woman who died, and we'll throw that money liyam hamelech as we're supposed to. So the Gemara answers, Hamrinan bi'alma Rabbi Yehuda lesle breira. You're right, but it happens to be that we say in general Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a breira. So since Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a breira, that's exactly why he's concerned for this situation. Maybe we'll find out one of the women died, and that's why he does not collect in the shofaros the money for the kinei chova. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, Rabbi Yossi Bei Rabbi Bon Omer Rabbi Bo Bar Mamul Boy. Rabbi Yossi Bei Rabbi Bon says that Rabbi Bo Bar Mamul asks the following question. Omar Hare Olai Eitz. Let's say a person says in singular, I am donating an eitz to the Mizbeach. Now we said in the Mishnah, if you say you're donating eitzim, you have to give at least 2 large pieces of wood. So what if you say it in singular? Are you allowed to give 1, or is it a general rule it can never be less than 2? So that's what the Gemara says. Hare olayetz mevi gizar echad. In such a situation, is a person able to bring 1 piece of wood or not? Amar Rebbe Lazar says, Masnisa Amro Kain. We can learn it out from the following brisa. The brisa says, Shezeh carbon b'fnei atzmo, v'zeh carbon b'fnei atzmo. The case over here is, let's say you have one Kohen brings up 1 piece of wood, and another Kohen brings up another piece of wood. Each one is considered an independent carbon, like we learned over there in the Mishnah. This is a Mishnah in Mesechet Yuma. Shnayim biyadam shnei gizrei eitzim. Again, you have 2 Kohanim, and they have, each one has 1 piece of wood in their hand. So they each have together, combined, they have 2 pieces of wood. So the halacha is, in such a situation, if they have these 2 pieces of wood, so we say that that's fine. That's considered, each one is considered a carbon b'fnei atzmo. And the Gemara says, Carbon l'rabos eso eitzim. Where do we know this idea that you can donate eitzim? Because it says the word carbon, we darshan that word, and we say that it means a person can even donate wood to the Mizbeach if he wants to. So in any case, the point is, you see clearly that each individual piece of wood can be considered a carbon, and therefore, yes, if a person says they're going to donate a single piece of wood, and they say it in singular, not in plural, they absolutely can donate 1 piece of wood. And the Gemara continues and discusses the size of these pieces of wood that were placed on Mizbeach. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Amar, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, Ovyon amma, the thickness is 1 amma, bi'amma shochakas. And the way you measure is you do an amma shochakas. That means you use a large estimate of what an amma is. V'yarchan, and when it comes to the length of the wood, ba'amma geduma, then you measure also it's an amma, but it's ba'amma geduma, meaning it's the short. When you estimate, you do a shorter kind of amma. Rabbi Choni b'shem Rabami kimin tortani. Rabbi Choni b'shem Rabani says that the size was the size of a tortani. Tortani was like the rod of the scales, so it was basically an exact. It seems to be an amma mitzumtzemes, an exact amma. And the Gemara explains, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak says, Lefi shelo haya makom ha'ma'arocha elo amma al amma. The reason why it had to be exact was because the area of the ma'arocha was exactly an amma by an amma. Lefikach lo haya bo el amma geduma. That's why it had to be measured at an amma geduma. Again, as we said, when you estimate the amma, it's got to be on the small side. B'tani chen, we have a brayso also that he talks about the dimensions of the mizbeach: amma yesod, v'amma sovev, amma charkov, v'amma kronos, v'amma ma'arocha. These are the different components of the mizbeach. The yesod was an amma, the sovev was an amma, the karkov was an amma. The karkov was the area where the kohanim walked on the mizbeach, and there was an amma by amma for the corners, and there was also an amma of space, as we said, for the ma'arocha. And the Gemara continues at the two dots: levona lo yifchus mikometz. Again, as we said in the Mishnah, when it comes to levona, if a person donates a levona, shouldn't be less than a kometz, shouldn't be less than a fistful, and the Gemara explains. Nemar kan azkara v'nemar lahalon azkara. It uses the word azkara when it talks about the levona that comes with a karban mincha, calls that an azkara. It also uses the word azkara when it talks about the levona that comes together with the lechem aponim. Ma azkara ha'amar lahalon, just like the azkara that is said with the lechem aponim, mole kometz, the amount is a kometz, that's the amount of levona that's brought with the lechem aponim. Af azkara ha'amar kan mole kometz. So too the azkara over here, meaning that comes with menachos, that comes with karban mincha, that should be a kometz. So now the Gemara says, Ima azkara ha'amur lahalon shnei komtsin. What are you talking about? When it comes to the situation of the lechem aponim, really technically it's two komtsin, because really by the lechem aponim you have two rows or two stacks of lechem aponim, and each one gets a kometz. So therefore, af azkara ha'amur kan shnei komtsin. If that's the case, maybe we should say over here as well, the other way around. When it comes to the azkara by karban mincha, maybe that also should be two komtsin, and we should learn it out from the lechem aponim in that fashion. And so the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yeila says, Klum lomdu lekometz ella. So the girsa over here is ella mimincha. Really, where do we learn out this kometz from? Meaning, where do we learn out the kometz that comes from the lechem aponim, that the shear is a kometz? We really learn that out from mincha. Mincha itself is actually the source. Ma'alahalan, and then the Gemara says even further, Ma'alahalan kometz hachaser pasol, afkan kometz hachaser pasol. Now over here also the Gra changes the girsa, and he changes it from pasol to kosher, so it should read as follows: Ma'alahalan kimutz hechaser kosher. Just like over there by karban mincha, if you have a little bit less than a kometz, you take a little less than you're supposed to, it's still kosher. Afkan kometz hachiser kosher. So too over here, when it comes to the levona that comes, here we're talking specifically about the levona that you're donating, the levona that's ba bifnei atzma. If you leave a little off, it's going to be kosher. That is not true. Again, this is the way the Gra learns. That is not true by the levona of the lechem aponim. By the levona of the lechem aponim, you're not allowed to be missing anything. In any case, what's the Gemara saying? The Gemara is saying, just like we find by karban mincha, the amount of levona is a kometz. Therefore, we also understand that when a person wants to donate the levona by itself, it should not be less than a kometz. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yosa says, Milsa de Rabbi Yeila, from the words of Rabbi Yeila, Amra, from those words we learn as follows, HaMisnadev levona mivia bekomtso shel kohen. When a person donates, again, levona, the person should go by the kometz of the kohen. Why is that the case? Because again, Rabbi Yeila says, where are we learning the shiur for the donation? We're learning it from the karban mincha. We're learning it from the levona that's brought with the karban mincha. And therefore, just like by the karban mincha, the kometz follows the kometz, the fistful of the kohen. He's the one that's taking the kamitza. So too by the donation, that's what you should follow. The Gemara brings a differing opinion. Rabbi Chizkiya b'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Chizkiya says the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. Afilu b'kometz habaylim. No, when it comes to donating the levona, person can even use the kometz of the person who is giving the donation. And the Mishnah said, Zav lo yifchos v'chulu. It said if a person donates gold to the Beis HaMikdash, it shouldn't be less than a dinar of gold. And the Gemara over here says, Amar Rebbe Lazar says, V'hu shehizkir tzura. That's only if the person makes a donation and mentions that it's going to be a coin. For example, the person says, Harei alai matbeya zav. So he's donating a golden coin, then it should be a dinar. That's like the smallest coin that should be donated. Avolim lo hizkir tzura. But if the person does not mention that it's a coin, maybe afilu tzinura, then the person can donate even a fork, meaning even a small kli, something little, that would also be fine in terms of the donation of zahav. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Shisha l'Nedava. Again, the Mishnah said there were 6 shofars for Nedava. Again, Nedava is person, let's say, designates money for a particular carbonus of obligation, has extra money. They take that extra money, they put it into the shofars of Nedava, and they use that to bring carbonus of Nedava, like carbonola. So the Gemara now wants to know why 6. So first the Gemara says, Chizkiya, Amar Chizkiya says, Keneget Shisha Batei Avos. This corresponds to the 6 houses. You would always have Kohanim serving in Mishmaros, and each week would be a different, each day of the week would be a different Beis Av. So each particular family, so to speak, had a certain day of the week, and according to this opinion, every shofar corresponded to that one day of the week, to that particular family. So whatever day you were serving, you would take money from that particular shofar. Bar Padiyah Omer Keneget Sheish Behemos. Bar Padiyah says it corresponds to the 6 types of animals that are kosher for a carbanola. Parve, Egel, Useir, Ayel, Gediutle. These are the animals that can be brought as a carbanola. And again, each shofar would say which animal it was for. If you wanted to bring a particular animal, you would take from that particular shofar. Shmuel, Amar Shmuel says, Keneget Shisha Karbonos. It actually corresponds to the 6 karbonos. And we'll go with the gears over here of Kinei Zavim, Vikinei Zavos. So it goes for Kinei Zavim, Kinei Zavos, those again are the bird karbonos. Kinei Yoldos is number 2. Chatos is number 3. Ashamos is number 4, Ve'ashamos. And then Haminachos is number 5. V'asiris Ha'efa, the Asiris Ha'efa that was brought every day by the Kohen Gadol, that is number 6. So according to this opinion, each one of the shofaros, again, had the name of a particular carbon which the money was extra from. In other words, if you said you were going to donate, let's say, a carbon chatas, you had extra money, you put it in the one that said chatas, and again, the money was used for carbon ola, etc. Gemara says a totally different explanation now from Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Al Yadesha Nedavim Meruba Ribu La Shofars Harbe. Since there were many nedavas, meaning there was a lot of money that was donated, so they had a lot of shofars. They didn't want to put it all in one big shofar because that would cause that the money might become moldy. So that was the reason for that. And this last section of Gemara and the Yaman we're going to learn according to the Girsa of the Gra. This is referring to, in the Bayis Rishon, Yehoyada HaKohen, Yehoyada, who was the Kohen Gadol, he wanted to collect money for Bedek HaBayis. So he made an aron, he made an area like a collection box in order that people should put in donations for the purpose of Bedek HaBayis. And there's a contradiction in Psukim in terms of what you could use the money for. So the Pasuk in Divrei Yamim says, Ksiv, the Pasuk says, V'chechlosam heviu lifnei hamelech, v'yehoyada es shara kesef, v'yaseu kelim leveis Hashem kli sharis. That's how the Pasuk goes on, meaning you use the money that was donated, again in this story in Sefer Malachim, use it for kli sharis. Now the way the Girsa of the Gra is, we now bring a Pasuk in Malachim. Uchsiv, the Pasuk says, this is in Malachim Beis, the Pasuk says, so again, Malachim Beis, Perak Yud Beis, Pasuk Yud, it says, Ach lo yasa Beis Hashem sipos kesef, mezamros, min ha-kesef hamuva Beis Hashem. On the contrary, you're not allowed to use the money that was donated in this particular story for the purpose of Klei Shares. So you have a contradiction. Is it used for the binyan habayis, for the building itself, or for the Klei Shares? And so the Gemara answers, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman b'shem Rabbi Yonasan Amar. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman says in the name of Rabbi Yonasan, Shtei nedavos asa. There actually were 2 separate donations. The idea over here is Yehoyada had 2 separate collections. One was for Bedek HaBayis, one was for Kli Shares. The pasuk in Divrei Hayamim was saying that from the extra money they made Kli Shares, that was from the money, in other words, that was donated for that purpose. But in Sefer Malachim, where it says the opposite, that again, that was money that was not donated for the purpose of Kli Shares. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Tes Amud Aleph.